welcome back to the competitive street series.
The absolute carnage on this final lap. 5 red lights here in Miami. Can they regain that place?
I cannot believe my eyes.
Who comes out on top? Down the inside into Casio Triangle. This could end in disaster.
So Zach Miles taking the lead. It was an all-or-nothing approach for the TF10 team.
And this could be crucial for NBR.
A race to remember for Jeremy Gallagher.
And they are officially the champions of the season.
It does not get closer than that. What a race. What a season.
Hi, good evening and warm welcome to you. Welcome back to the competitive speed series. I believe Byron is trying to set up his audio as I am introducing you to a mysterious day today because we've got a mysterious Grand Prix coming up. We actually already know what it is. But you are about to find out as well as we are waiting for the final few drivers to join the lobby. It's going to be an exciting one. This is round number 5 out of 12, so we are nearing the halfway point. And at the moment, TF10 is starting to build a little bit of a lead over FVR. The two classic rivals are at it once again, and they are at the top of the table at the moment. I'm going to check in with Byron for a second, whether this audio is set up. Byron, are you good to go?
Yes, I'm all good.
Yes. Excellent.
Indeed. And I've got the YouTube chat up. This is all going well. It's all working right when I needed it to. Right. We are all good to go, ladies and gentlemen. We are in for an absolute barnstormer tonight. We've got our mystery round. It is anybody's guess as to where we are heading. I mean, we know, and we've got that inside advantage. We've got the knowledge and the inside scoop. But you guys at home, you haven't got any idea. And that's going to make it all the more exciting. I was actually told this. The drivers haven't even known who else is racing in the lobby. I'm not sure if you heard about this, Frost. But the drivers, the team sheets were redacted. So no one even knew who's racing. So this is the first time we found out who's in the lobby as well, because no one knew. Which is a bit interesting. But
the only thing that was missing was mysterious commentators then. But you know.
just rock up with some random people for the comms. But I can see that they have now been told the track. So let's tell you the track, ladies and gentlemen. We are heading to Japan. It is Suzuka. It is a brilliant circuit, or a racer's circuit, and one which is very, very difficult. So it's going to be difficult for these drivers to get on the pace immediately, I think. It's going to be a really interesting one.
Yeah, people in the Discord were talking about Vegas a lot because apparently there was a rumor going around about that track being chosen. But it is Japan indeed. We're going around Suzuka. The figure of 8 circuit on the calendar for this season is back again. And it always provides us with some interesting racing with all of these 20 drivers coming up. So it should definitely be a good one.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. Already the reaction from the drivers is a little bit on the interesting side. Some people saying it's great. Some people...
Most actually say it.
Yeah, most seem happy.
Yeah.
But you do have a few that aren't too happy. Yeah, so...
Well, I mean, what can I say? You cannot have everybody happy with a track choice either way.
Absolutely. You cannot make everybody happy at all. But let's see who we have that will be happy after qualifying. We are just a couple of moments away until we do get underway for 18 minutes of non-stop action for qualifying tonight. And I'm looking at the grid, and I'm looking at who, up and down that grid could be strong. Really difficult to pin who's going to be hot and who's going to be not. When you have no practice going into it, it really could be anybody, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking at the grid here. Interesting names. Let's see, the top 2 teams have brought tonight for FVR. We've got Tony Hitala, and we also have Diego Zorzo again in the Mercedes car. Then for the TF10 team, the leading team at the moment, Mark Schluter, alongside his fellow German Daniel Gottschalk in the Red Bulls. Then for VRM, we've once again got Tristan Derbecourt and Jeremy Gallonier. The Williams TES got Modesto Mina and Carlos Galindo. Let's see if they can come back a little bit more than, as opposed to last week. For TTM, we've got Giovanni Kennis and Lighty in the Ferraris. Then for LR, the RB cars, Oliver Nutt and Tim Ternimo. AMR, we've got Alex Lamas and Aaron Dominguez in the Haas cars. Then we've got the Saubers, the ABSs, Pascal Ranielli and Tamas Kokony. Then let me see which team I still missed. ET8, we've got Bogdan Moldovan and Gustav Ruderdal. And then for EVE, we've got Jordan DHL and Min Jake. And I believe I now have covered all of the 10 teams on the grid tonight.
Indeed, yeah, Tamas Kokone, the first driver out onto the circuit, followed by both VRMs there of Tristan and Jeremy Gallinier, our lobby host. He normally doesn't take too much time to get out onto the circuit, but beaten by Tamas for ABS, who do want a good result here tonight. And yeah, really would pay dividends if they can have a solid race weekend. It is the return of the sponsor boards as well tonight, as you see, lovely Grid Finder, Sim Racing Centre and CSS branding adorning the circuit for once again. And yeah, going to be a really interesting one tonight as Tamas Kokone begins the action here tonight, rounding the final corner, holding it as far to the left, DRS open and down towards the tricky turn 1.
Let's see how he does then. The first one to set a banker lap. It's also interesting. I haven't seen Tamas Kokony for a while now. Whoa, turn 1 already proves quite tricky for him right there. Then, of course, heading into the famous S section. Let's see how his car is going to bring it right there. Looks a little bit on the unstable and oversteery side. Let's see if he can find some more grip then as he exits the S's section and heads toward the exit of the first sector, then of course approaching the tunnel. Let's see, first sector 31.757, not too shabby at all. Then approaching, of course, soon the hairpin corner coming up next there. Let's see if he can get it right over here from the outside to the inside. A little bit of a lock-up, mixes the apex slightly, but then full power then as he heads towards the famous spoon section coming up very soon indeed. And then towards the end of sector number 2, the banker lap getting ever closer. He's being pursued by both McLarens, by the way, who are right behind him at the moment. Tamas Kokony then on to the back straight, headed towards 130R at the end of sector number 2. His lap time currently being a 1 minute 10.717. It's going to do quite decent indeed. Past the DRS detection zone towards the only DRS zone, by the way, on the main straight. Wow, that's the chicane, also looking not very stable at all. This, thankfully for him, is just a bank lap with a lot of time to go. His lap time is going to be at 27.3, followed by the McLaren's way 27.3 from Tristan and a 27.0 from Jeremy Gallinier.
Indeed, yeah, really good opening laps for a few of these drivers. Giovanni Kennis, he's invalidated on his lap. He comes back into the pit lane. I believe we've got Aaron Dominguez about to come and set his lap time to the top. It's a 1:26.950, so a good lap time from him. Oliver Knott slots into third place there. We've got quite a few drivers about to come across the line now. Tim Ternemo, as well as Mark Schluter, who goes 7th. That's not where he would have wanted to be in qualifying at this early stage. Pascal Ranielli is beginning his flying hot lap, but Alex Lamas of AMR is about to come across the line. Where can he go? It's bottom of the pile for the time being. But so much time for things to change between now and the end as Min Jake there goes into that 10th place as well. But Tony Heatler is about to come across the line. Does he decide to set this lap time? He absolutely does. Round that final bend, up to the line, goes fourth, a 1:27.198. So most drivers in that 1:27, but Aaron Dominguez, clearly the pick of the bunch at the moment.
Yeah, Carlos Galindo just slots in at 28.0 as his teammate goes to a P6 with a 27.2. Carlos Galindo having a bit of a moment out of the final corner. Wasn't looking too stable at all. So that kind of explains, partly at least, why he's at the bottom of the table at the moment. But looking at TF10 though, currently only 9th and 10th fastest. They need to up their game. Their main rivals are currently 4th and 17th. Of course, Diego Zorzo not yet having set a lap time yet. Watching Pascal Ranieri right now, by the way, the only driver at the moment on a proper hot lap as we speak, or at least he's about to finish it right now, heading towards the chicane. The Sauber right there of Pascal going through it nice and stable, as opposed to his teammates. Currently sitting in P8. There goes Pascal Ranieri, only 15th fastest and last of the lot who have set a lap time yet with a 28.1. So a lot of time to find for him then, trying to get closer to his teammates as Jordan DHL has actually started the lap.
Yeah, just behind Pascal Ranieri is Jordan, and he's taking to Sector 1 for EVE. Now, EVE, you're a team that I think could get quite a lot, but they do get quite unlucky, don't necessarily get the best of luck around these sort of circuits. But when you get this sort of opportunity with a circuit that nobody has any practice on, you know, you can practice all you want, but it's going to be general practice, not specifically, because nobody knows where they're going racing. So we could have a driver, you know, EVE could have just happened to prepare on Japan, and they would be all guns blazing, right, in a really good position. So this kind of opportunity with a mystery track provides an opportunity for these teams that maybe aren't quite as strong to really excel if they're quite easily adaptable and easy at warming up on a different circuit in very different circumstances. But Jordan has made it quite nicely around this lap and about to come through the Casio triangle and up towards the line. Now you'll see them hug to the left-hand side all the way through most of qualifying, but Jordan clearly not worried about that for the time being.
No, I also can't help but notice that VRM is definitely benefiting from the Mystery Grand Prix, as opposed to usually they are quite far back in qualifying, but now that nobody has had some practice, it looks like they're having quite a good time. Currently, Jeremy Gallagher on the front row and Tristan Derbecourt in 7th place, as opposed to the faster team is TF10, for example, 9th and 10th. I'm watching Diego Zorzo, who's about to finish his lap. Where is he going to go? Is he going to be quick? As usual, yes, of course he is, and by quite the margin. 2.5 tenths. He just eats away from Aaron Dominguez, and he easily breezes to the top of the table and just silences all of them right there. A brilliant lap. Same goes for Lighty, by the way. Just came across the line with a 26.8. A quick qualifier. Here's 2, and he shows it straight away. His teammate is about to cross the line too, as is Bogdan Moldovan, but he's invalidated. So Giovanni Kennis then. Let's see if he can get himself anywhere close to Lighty's lap time as he comes across the line. It's a 27.0. That's P5. That's not bad at all. Once again, TTM looking very fast in qualifying. Let's hope this week they can translate that into the race as well.
Indeed, yeah, really looking good at the moment for TTM. As well as VRM, I think they, as you were saying just before, we had quite a few hot laps come in there. Really not looking too bad for them, but keep an eye on this man on your screen, Aaron Dominguez. He's beginning his second flying lap. He was the pick of the bunch on the first runs. He could be about to try and take that position and that P1 spot back, but is it going to be a good lap for Aaron Dominguez? Well, Sector 1 says 3/4 of a tenth improvement there, so that's a decent improvement, but the rear end gets really slightly out of Degner too, so this lap may well be abandoned, but he seems to be carrying on with a little bit of pace. Maybe there is even more time to find in this lap.
Is one of the rivals, Tim Tornimo, behind, and Lars sitting currently 3rd in the standings, only 9 points ahead of TES, by the way, as Aaron Dominguez heads through Spoon right there to approach the closure of the 2nd sector. The man sitting now in 3rd in the provisional pole standings right there, not doing too bad at all, but not surprising because he's a quick qualifier. There we go. The mistake that we saw coming out of the exit of Sector 1 has cost him quite a lot of time. He's 6 tenths of his previous lap time, and that's certainly going to be abandonment for him as he heads back to the pit entry. There he goes. Then we switch to Tim Tornimo, but because he's going to cross the line, and he does improve massively. He just goes into the 1 minute 26 by 1 millisecond at 26.999. You love to see it, and he goes 4th fastest. And I can tell you that right now the top 6 consists of 5 different teams, so that is quite brilliant. In the meanwhile, Tony Hitala is currently sitting in P8 58, and he's on a hot lap 2, going through Spoon, just like several other cars we saw previously, as he is going to try and improve. He was a tiny bit faster in Sector 1, only a few milliseconds, but through Sector 2 is quite a lot faster already. He's getting awfully close to the 1 minute 26 limit right there. Let's see if he can make it through the chicane to get some extra time right there as the track improves more and more. He's still happy with his lap because he's going to cross the line right now. He's going to go second fastest, 26.8, and we've got a front row lockout then for FVR, the current reigning champions. Wow, what a lap.
Very much so. What a lap indeed. And Mark Schluter goes into 10th there, knocking one of the VRMs out of that top 10. Solid improvement there from Tristan as well as Jeremy Gallinier. Both of those had a solid lap time there. I'm wondering who's about to come across the line. I believe that's Carlos Galindo beginning a flying hot lap. Who is going to be the next man across the line? It's going to be Alex Lamas for AMR, who's coming round through Casio Triangle once again. The rear end getting quite loosey, just as it happened for his teammate, Aaron Raminguez, when he got all loosey through that section. Jeremy Gallinier up to second. What a lap time from the VRM. Yeah, absolutely. On the ball. And on the money.
He's absolutely flying, yeah.
Really?
I mean, that's very impressive, actually. They've been dribbling around in the midfield, and in the standings, they are at the back of the pack, currently in 9th, 4 points behind ABS with 39 points on the table. And tonight could potentially be a turnaround, unless we're jinxing it right as we speak. Jeremy Gallinier, second fastest, less than a tenth away from Diego Zorzo, who'll be looking in his rearview mirrors right now with a McLaren splitting the FVR cars all of a sudden. Tristan Derricourt heading back into pit lane as we speak, now sitting in P13. I'm trying to find a car that's about to finish a hot lap. It's Bogdan Moldovan about to cross the line, goes only 16th fastest. The ETA team there not looking that strong yet. Gustav Ruderdahl is currently sitting in 9th, and Bogdan sitting 16th. The Aston Martin certainly are going to try to find some extra time. Then next across the line, not Mark Schluter. I think it might be one of the Williams cars. That's Carlos Galindo potentially going to finish a lap. Well, no, he's actually going to start a lap, I think, because he messed up his previous one. So he's going to try again. I think many drives are either on an in-lap or an out-lap or in the pit box at the moment.
Yeah, I think Diego Zorzo is the next man to come across the line, who's on a flying lap time at the moment. He's obviously P1 at the moment, but he wants to set that bar higher if he can. Bogdan Moldovan, maybe not where he wants to be, but had a massive moment of rear-end instability just through the final corner. So Lighty has retired. He's made a mistake on the track. Fourth is the best he'll manage in this qualifying session, but Diego Zorzo by a 10.5 raises that margin that he has over the rest of the field. Not bad at all for him. But now we're getting a few more people heading around on the road. I think the next driver to come around will be Bogdan Moldovan. Once again, having a bit of rear-end instability. I think, though, Aaron Dominguez is on a lap. Is he improving, though? Where can he go? He's back into the pit lane once more.
Yeah, that's where he went to. Lighty, though, I just saw him from one of the Haas perspectives. His car was in the wall out of the hairpin, completely removed the front left wheel, completely removed it. So he's out of qualifying now. That is unfortunate because we know he's quick and he could have potentially brought TTM to a very surprising pole position. But that's not going to happen anymore. And now all the pressure is on his teammate Giovanni Kennis to save the day for the Ferrari team. So yeah, Lighty then out of qualifying, as is Alex Lamas. The Haas I just spoke about, that was watching a crashed Ferrari, has taken a leaf out of the Ferrari's book, I'm afraid, and has crashed into the S section. That's two drivers within the span of 2 minutes, crashing out on track. And once again, Japan proving to be quite dangerous.
Indeed, yeah, very, very dangerous. But at the moment, this is playing nicely into the hands of other teams around who may be about to set a good improvement in the order and will gain a few, hopefully, fingers crossed, free places. I believe Tomas is trundling around on low fuel mode because he is going at the absolute pace of a snail as we do begin to see everybody coming out of the pit lane to begin what will be the final laps of qualifying. Leading us away is Modesto Mena, who resides all the way down in 13th place. Following just in behind is Bogdan Moldovan, both of whom who will be looking for quite a bit of an improvement. Bogdan wasting no time, making an overtake to try and get a bit of track position. He wants to be one of the first drivers to begin that first flying lap. That could be beneficial if the track does not improve, but if track improvement does happen, this could mean that Bogdan Moldovan finds himself a little bit hung out to dry.
He's just very eager to go. I was about to say he's going to try and make it around the track to potentially get in another hot lap in case he messes up, but that's not going to happen. There's 1 minute 40 seconds remaining, and this is going to be his final chance. You said he made a big mistake, so he's certainly got a lot to improve on then on the upcoming run right here. He'll be the first to cross the line and start a hot lap, and then very soon we will know which team, which driver is going to take pole position here in the 5th round, the Mystery Grand Prix that turned out to be Japan. Here in the CSS. FVR currently 1st and 3rd. Jeremy Gallagher splitting the lot as Bogdan Moldovan is about to go through the chicane, start his final run. But I also like to have a little look at Modesto Mena, the TES team, which last week was plagued big time by issues from, I believe it was Carlos Galindo. A lot of internet issues caused him to drop to the back of the field rapidly, therefore potentially giving them no more shots at the win anymore. So they are looking for some brighter days today. Modesto Mena then on a hot lap at the moment through the S section just behind Bogdan Moldovan. Let's find out. The chat says 46% of you say that FVR will be on pole position right now. You are correct, but that might change at any moment.
Indeed it will. Bogdan Moldovan is making a solid improvement in that Sector 1, 10th and a half. So not looking bad here for the Aston Martin. Is this track evolution or is this pace evolution, right? We're seeing a lot of these drivers having to warm up to the circuit, and that could be a large amount of where some of this pace is coming from. But Bogdan Moldovan is not doing a bad job at all on this lap. But just behind, you've got Modesto Mena, then you've got Giovanni Kennis, and then you have, I'm not sure if it's Daniel or if it's Mark Schluter, but Bogdan Moldovan, he does not have to worry about who is behind him. All he's got to worry about is this one final sector, nearly 3 tenths improvement there as we head into Sector 3. At the moment, this lap time will only take him up 3 places. It can only take him up to about, well, it might even improve him only by 1 place. But around the final bend, is there a lot of time in Sector 3? There is a lot of time in Sector 3, up to 10th. Now, what can Modesto Mena do? He's actually lost his front wing. What has happened there? As Giovanni Kennis up to 2nd. Daniel now goes into 8th. This is going to be a real interesting end to qualify.
Jeremy Gallagher next to cross the line as his teammates improve to P6, and Raminges goes 2nd fastest. Diego Zorzo has already improved to a 26.5. Jeremy Gallagher cannot improve, stays 5th fastest. Carlos Galindo can only go to 16th. He was in the front row last week, but no such things this time round. TES at the back of the pack at the moment, trying to find any other potential pole sitter. That's Gustav Rudal crossing the line, stays 13th. Mark Schluter goes up to P9 already as Jordan splits the TES cars into 16th. He goes then, I believe, Pascal Ranielli next to cross the line, has found some improvement in Sector 2, does only improve to 19th. So that means 46% of you viewers were correct. If you voted, that means that is Diego Zorzo on a pole position confirmed right here. But the FVR team does not have a front row lockout because Andrew Mingus has split the FVR cars by 4 milliseconds from Tony Hitala in 3rd. Then Giovanni Kennis saves the day for TTM 4th. Jeremy Gallagher in between them in P5. Lighty in 6th. Then Tristan Derbecourt, a great result for VRN there in 7th. Tim Tornimo P8. Mark Schluter P9. Oliver Knott 10th. Then Daniel Gottschalk P11. Tamas Kokeny P12. Bogdan Moldovan, Gustav Rydel 13th, 14th, Modesto Mena, Jordan DHL, Carlos Galindo, Alex Lamas, Pascal Ranielli, and Min Jake forming the back of the field right there. And to be fair, I am most surprised about TF10's pace tonight because they are far away from their rivals here.
Yeah, TF10 seems to be really struggling with the Mystery Grand Prix format. It does seem a little bit, like they're struggling. And that's what this sort of format can throw up. It always is going to throw up some surprises, and we're seeing exactly that, and I am so happy. It's these sort of things that throw that spanner into the works, really surprise everything, and just make it so difficult for these drivers. They are so used to things being that certain way. When things change, they don't know how to handle it. It's
going to be a brilliant one. We've got a tentative start right now. The lobby is going to be restarted. The weather was going to be cloudy for the sunny actually for the race. Sorry. But of course, those things are going to change around when the lobby gets a restart and the dynamic weather gets reset once again. Of course, Japan can have some pretty bad weather, but you never really know what's going to happen in the race. Let's hope the drivers retire quick so we can quickly get our lobby set up again. But yeah, TF10 looking at a pretty bad start from the race tonight. They're going to try and fight back to the front of the field, but FVR have potentially got this under control already from first and third with an AMR car in between them. Unsurprisingly, Aaron Dominguez being fast again. But I have to say, the surprise team tonight being VRM. Let's see what they can bring to the table.
Indeed, yeah, I think really interesting.
I'm not sure if Byron is still around, actually, because he just fell silent quite suddenly. So there might be some audio issues from Byron's side again. So I'll just keep talking then for the lot of you. Let's hope screen changes still happen. I'm not sure if Byron is online at the moment.
I'm here on...
And we'll find out soon enough.
I am
back.
so confused.
I'm not even sure if I am online right now. Byron, you're good?
Right.
No.
I'm
there
back.
He is.
Right. I was on the stream the entire time. I was pretty much telling you and screaming at you, I'm here. For some reason, Discord just decided to stop picking up my microphone. So I just had to...
Interesting.
I just had to tell it that I have a microphone. Which is really weird. I think that happened when I unplugged my controller. So I'm going to replug that in case that causes more chaos.
Very interesting what controllers can do to Discord these days.
Very much so. It doesn't appear to have caused any more problems doing it the opposite way, but yeah, exactly that. I think we are really in for a real treat tonight. For some reason, the game has stopped picking up my controller though, which is not great. What is going on with my life?
Sounds like the controller is having an awful amount of control over your applications,
it does appear.
so to say.
It does appear. It's really weird.
Unintended, by the way.
I'm really lost about that. Let's hopefully fix that. Hello? Now it's saying that I'm trying to do split screen, which I am not trying to do. This is very baffling. Looks like I'll have to restart my game. God, we love it when technology works. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I think you pretty much knocked it on the head, though, to go back to the important matter of the racing. VRM, I think, is going to be the team to watch, I think, going into this race. They've really shown some promising pace that I don't think we've typically kind of seen from them. We see them qualify well sometimes, but not capitalise in the race, whereas they seem to be pretty on it from the get-go. I think they're probably my good surprise so far. So far does not indicate the future.
I mean, the interesting thing is they are currently in 9th place with 39 points. But then in P5, there's TTM. They have got 79 points. So there's 40 points. And that's not a lot in between 5th and 9th. So a good result tonight from VRM could potentially bring them up a whole lot of positions. AMR's in P6 with 75. Then ET8 in 7th with 63. ABS is in 8th with 43 points. And then Vroom of aka VRM is coming up in 9th there with 39, as I said. So there's a lot of hope for them, but I suggest to them they take a careful approach because the risky approach usually doesn't really work out quite well, especially if you try to climb up to the top 5. Because keep in mind, that prize money goes all the way down to P5 this season. So first place, second, third, fourth, and fifth all get some prize money for their teams if they manage to finish in that particular position. So a lot on the table for them, and therefore I'm very curious to see what they can bring from their positions of qualifying. I believe it's already getting underway again, Byron. The race is coming up, 27 laps in Japan, as the grid is readying up as we speak.
Indeed it is. It's going to be a really interesting one. I know you've taken a few minutes of break, but here is the track map for where we are racing tonight. It is the Suzuka circuit. It's the only figure of 8 on the calendar, and it is by far the most iconic circuit and one of the most iconic circuits in the world. And well, 18 corners making up 3.608 miles of track, 18 turns, and a lot of tricky corners. Those S corners, so difficult, but spoon curve as well, that double apex left-hander, so difficult to take flat out every single time. But I think we got a real challenge for the drivers tonight. Only one DRS zone, making overtakes quite difficult, but turn 1 does happen to be quite wide, so it does make it just a little bit easier, but we should be able to take you trackside in a moment just to see everything that there is to be had around this gorgeous circuit. Just waiting for a few more to ready up and get themselves into the lobby. But I think we can really look forward to this one, ladies and gentlemen. We have had to wait patiently. We've had to have a fabulous 18 minutes of qualifying, but let's take you trackside now as we are about to get the action underway here in Suzuka.
Suzuka, Japan, indeed. And do let us know in the chat, by the way, which team you think is going to take a victory. This is, of course, the perfect opportunity for FVR to regain the lead at the top of the table. The difference between the two teams is not that big. From the top of my head, it's only 12 points. Yes, it is. 183 to 171, of course. FVR did win last week's race, but TF10 had the overall better result, and therefore taking that first position. They were equal before last week's race, so they are definitely neck and neck as in terms of their strengths. Both teams are, so it's definitely interesting to see where they can go from here. FVR definitely have got the better positions on the track tonight. TF10 is going to have to fight hard as we get our poll up for the question, who wins tonight? Is it going to be FVR, or will we see either VRM or TTM taking the win, or maybe another team? If so, do let us know in the chat if any surprises are going to happen. But so far, it seems FVR, VRM, and TTM are indeed the strongest teams. There we go then. 3, 4, 5 red lights are going on right now. We are officially underway for round 5 here in CSS as Diego Zorzo tries to retain this pole position from Aaron Raminges. He's going to have to push him to the inside, but Aaron Raminges is going to try and have a go. No, he isn't, because he's getting assaulted from behind as well, especially Giovanni Kennis is on the rolls. He tries to get past Tony Hitala for P3 right there. Side by side they go into the S's. Already they're losing a little bit of time to first and second place, but Tony Hitala keeps the position for the time being. Meanwhile, behind, several position swaps are coming around. Tristan Derbycourt, whoa, there goes one of the Saubers smashing into the wall. That was Tomasz Kokony, who started from a brilliant, I believe, 8th position right there. Has already lost all places already, which is a really nightmare start there for the ABS team as they now find themselves at the back of the field. In the meanwhile, a lot of positions swapping around from the 14th downwards as they all jostle for the best position possible. Jordan DHL fighting with Modesta Mina and Alex Lamas for 14th, 15th, and 16th place. They're all going several cars wide into the spoon curve, and there goes Jordan DHL pushing the other cars and tapping them, nearly going around himself as well. A lot of chaos at the back of the field, not at all what ABS wants, with one of the drivers having started from a brilliant position. Let's have a little look at the tires. Everybody has started on the hard tires, fascinatingly, as Bogdan Moldovan tries to get Pascal Ranielli at the front of the field. Mark Schluter overtakes Lighty for P6. He's got to. He's on a mission, as is Daniel Gottschalk, to catch the FPR drivers. We're now still in first and third. There, though, comes Tony Hitala to make that third into second place. Goes around the outside. And it almost appears to be extremely easy because Aaron Raminges tried to defend, but no chance for him at all. And now we've got that FPR 1-2 that we were actually sort of predicting right there. And Mercedes lead for now.
Indeed, yeah, it feels like a 2020 all over again with Mercedes all the way out in front with both FERs at the top of the field. But Aaron Raminges, I think, has got a good chance in this one, but so much chaos and scrapping on that first lap. Now things will calm down. People will begin to find a little bit of a groove, but Tristan de Herbecourt was nearly being overtaken there by Daniel Gottschalk. He is actually going to be overtaken. They go 3 wide here as they go up towards the Spoon Curve. Tristan there having to battle here with Daniel now as we head towards Spoon Curve. Tristan slots back into that 8th place. So VRM looking quite decent at the moment on lap 2 of 27. Early days in this race for sure. But Jeremy Gallinier in 5th, Tristan in 8th. It's not looking too bad for VRM at the moment, but certainly if your name is Tristan, you're having to do a little bit of looking behind and you might be a little bit on the worried side.
Yeah, because he was nearly taken there by Daniel Gottschalk. And we also saw for a moment Diego Zorzo getting out of DRS range from his own teammate. There comes Aaron Raminges, though, for a second, thinking of a move on Tony Hitala there, but no chance of getting past just yet, as he has to stay in 3rd place for the time being. Diego Zorzo was probably having a little thought, probably thinking, can I try and go away or potentially put my teammate at risk, or will I just keep him within DRS range? Because at the moment, Diego's got a massive pace advantage over pretty much everybody else up the field at the moment. And Tony Hitala is having a hard time keeping everybody else behind right there. As you can see it right there, Diego Zorzo has gained about 4 or 5 tenths of a second through Sector 1 alone, up until the hairpin right there. And Tony Hitala is unable to keep up just yet. And that's going to bring a big dilemma to the FPR team. What are they going to do with their drivers, with one of them flying away and the other one is struggling to keep the rest behind? What's the strategy going to be for the Mercedes cars? Are they allowing Diego to get away and secure a big win? Or are they going to try and secure a 1-2 and potentially keep Diego within range of Tony?
I think Tony, his pace seems to be really struggling. I'm not sure quite what's going on for Tony. He just seems to not have much pace at this stage in the race. Maybe a bit of a poor setup for the race trim. Maybe great for qualifying, not so much for the race. But we should see definitely Aaron Raminges, I think, get this place here as we head down towards turn number 1. Diego also obviously takes the fastest lap here as we head on to lap 4. And easy as you like it, Aaron Raminges ahead, and you see there Giovanni Kennis trying to make the move here as well as they go side by side on the exit of turn number 1. And lovely from Giovanni to make that move just heading into that tricky S section. That is a lovely overtake. Aaron Raminges has got a bit of work to do here, about 3 attempts to try and close up to get within DRS of Diego Zorzo, but I think he might be able to manage it here because he can work with those cars behind to hopefully close that gap up.
Yeah, Thomas Langdell having every bit of faith in Tony, as he says, trust the process. Tony is cooking right now, though. Tony finds himself in 4th place. Whether that was strategy or not, I cannot tell you just yet. We might have an interview for him if he finishes on the podium, as Daniel Gottschalk has finally gotten past Tristan de Herbecourt for P8 TF10. Still on the hunt for those elusive Mercedes FPR cars right there. P6 and P8 at the moment. Mark Schluter trying to line up Jeremy Gallinier for a move. He can see one of the FPR cars getting closer and closer still. And Raminges has caught Diego Zorzo by about 4 tenths over the last lap, mostly thanks to DRS, of course, on the main straight. As you can see through the chicane especially, he's losing 2 tenths. That's a lot of time for 2 small corners right there. As now Aaron Raminges does actually set the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 30.5. Givano Kennis, though, getting closer and closer. Tony Hitala having to defend again, this time against Jeremy Gallonier. Once again on the inside, Tony Hitala is very good at defending in turn 1 and 2. And he, for now, keeps the McLaren behind. But he does realize at the moment that drivers behind him and in front of him are slightly faster. And he's having to use the DRS to keep up with a lot of them. We can also see a group form from the top 7 upwards, as Tristan Derbycourt can no longer keep up with that fast group right there. But for now, though, Diego Zorzo reigns supreme from everybody else.
Indeed, yeah, Aaron Dominguez not really gaining much time versus Diego Zorzo. The pace from between the two of them seems to be relatively similar, although in the corners, Diego Zorzo does appear to be gaining a lot of time. Tristan de Herbecourt does appear to be gaining in on this train from 2nd all the way down to 7th, so he might be able to get that big pack into the mix here. As you see Jeremy Gallonier go around the outside of Mark Schluter. Mark Schluter go down the inside of Jeremy, and now they'll go side by side. Surely not side by side through 130R. They absolutely do. This is absolutely committed racing between the pair of them. Now, Jeremy Gallonier, he's going to have the inside into the Casio Triangle chicane and absolutely keeps that place, defending that 5th place very, very well. And this actually could open up the door for Lighty. It does open up the door for Lighty to take that place versus Mark Schluter, who now falls to 7th instead of getting up into 5th.
Yep, at the same time, the other TTM driver's gotten past another person as well. Givano Kennis now finds himself in 2nd place, and now he's going to try and give chase to Diego Zorzo, but nobody so far has been able to catch him yet, not even his own teammate, who's now still sitting in P4. Jeremy Gallonier, saved by Lighty's overtake, stays in P5 for the time being. Mark Schluter probably not very happy with being pushed down back to 7th place, and also not too happy to realize that his teammate Daniel is in another group at the moment, as Tim Tornimo is now leading group number 2 from P8 downwards to P13. The NLR driver doing everything to catch the leading pack as the gap slowly shrinks through the corners, but then of course there's the main straight. And that's why they lose all the time again, because even with the cooperation they're trying to have, it's not yet possible to catch the top 7 just yet. We're on lap 6 at the moment. 1.3 seconds. So we do see Givano, though, trying to loosen or slightly close the gap a little bit, and he's succeeding somewhat. He's gained about 1 or 2 tenths of a second over this lap. So potentially some pace from him right there through chicane. He's doing a bit of a better job than Aaron had. He's only lost about 1/10 of a second. There comes Aaron Dominguez back at him, though, because it looks like the Haas got a much better exit out of the chicane. Back into 2nd place, Aaron Dominguez goes to try and catch the race leader. In the meanwhile, Tristan Derbycourt has regained the lead of group number 2 and P8 right there. Tim Tornimo just barely keeping Daniel Gottschalk behind at the same time as he lost the position to Tristan. So overtakes all over the place. And TF10 still on the hunt.
Yes, indeed. This is looking really good at the moment, I think, for quite a few. I'm not sure if you noticed this, Frost, but there's a light on the rear wing of that Mercedes out in front, Diego Zorzo, and it is flashing, which means that Diego Zorzo wants to try and keep that gap over a second, and he is burning his battery to try and do so, which could hurt his race in the long term, because it means when he has to defend, he's not going to have the battery to do it. He's got a 1.5 second, gap out in front at the moment, but the pace that those behind are showing and the way they're able to work together could mean that Diego Zorzo is going to fall susceptible sooner rather than later, and that gap will incrementally close up ever so slightly and mean that we could see Diego Zorzo slip through the field a bit like his teammate has ever so slightly, though Tony Hitala has not fallen much further than that 4th place that he sits in at the moment.
Yeah, in fact, he was getting really close to Givano Kennis to get back onto the podium. In fact, here it comes. Well, he nearly went for it. Givano, though, went for it, overtaking Aaron Dominguez once again to get back into 2nd place. They are clearly cooperating to catch the lot. And I'm sure Tony Hitala doesn't really want that. He realized that Diego Zorzo has got a win in the hands for the team. And he's probably going to try and put a stop to this chase as soon as he can. And of course, he does know that Mark Schluter is sitting in 7th at the moment, so he would like to create a bit more space in between himself and his nearest rival right there. That's quite interesting to see. Tony Hitala bringing up a strategy for the team right there. As Thomas says in the chat, the flashing light in the corners is just going none to recharge. Indeed, it is. It's more likely than just managing his battery. He still probably has over 70%. Yeah, well, unfortunately, we cannot show the battery for strategy reasons, for team stream sniping, so to say. The race right here, so we will not know for sure how much battery he's got left. The gap though remains stable, 1.5 seconds between first and second. Mark Schluter trying to do everything he can to keep up. In the meanwhile, Modesto Mina is fighting everybody in the second group. We saw him having some trouble earlier this previous lap, I should say, trying to get past Oliver Knott. He's still ahead for the time being in P12, but TES, I have to say, Byron, is having an absolute nightmare race once again.
Yeah, it's really gutting for TES. They're a team, they have such promise and such potential, and sometimes it just feels like they get really unlucky, as Aaron Dominguez has got a bit of a lucky moment to get himself up in second, and Tony Hitala as well there into second place. So nice move here from Aaron Dominguez as well as Tony Hitala to get back onto that podium. Now, Aaron Dominguez has got to try and get off a little bit into the distance. If FVR get this 1-2 back, that he really could. But the race back in their hands with full control of proceedings, but Aaron Dominguez really struggling there out of dignity.
Yep, indeed. He is in third place once again. In the meanwhile, the group number 2, with Tim Tornimo in the lead, has only been losing time more and more. The gap between group 1 and 2 now up to 3 seconds already, despite them also having a toe of each other. It's not working out. And I just noticed that Tim Tornimo's left end plate of his front wing is currently missing. So that probably does explain a little bit of the pace missing too. He's fast on the straights, that's where he does the overtakes, but then in the corners he's somewhat holding everybody up, causing the gap to get ever bigger and bigger with the NLR driver in front at the moment. Daniel Gottschalk is sitting behind, having a look left and right, trying to get past. Look at that, through 130R, everybody's getting hauled up. Wow, and there goes a big, nearly terrible accident with Tristan Derbecourt tumbling down in the chicane. None of them very happy being held up right there, and Tristan is the victim at the moment. In the meanwhile, in the front of the field, Tony Hitala gets back in second place as Tristan goes into the pit lane. Tim Tornimo gets overtaken by 2 cars, both Gustav and Daniel getting past for P8 and P9, and Team Tornimo now in 10th place. Through 130R, it was so slow that it inadvertently caused chaos. Of course, no, by no means intentionally, but it was nearly a horrific incident right there.
Yeah, Tristan did a really good job to move out of that one, but Daniel has also got damage to his front wing.
I see that,
damage to the right end plate. So it feels like there's a couple of drivers in this pack that have picked up some damage and are causing a few problems, but Jeremy Gallinier doesn't have damage. He's running perfectly fine, and he's making himself ahead of Giovanni Canis, up into 4th for VRM as the other one tumbles towards the back of the field. So a real story of 2 halves for this team at the moment. One driver is going to be really happy. The other one is probably punching the steering wheel a little bit, because that incident could have been avoided if he'd been a little bit more cautious possibly, but time will tell on that one as to how his race pans out here. He will have to pit again though, because he's gone from a set of hards to another set of hards, so he's got to pit again in this race either way, but it could be for a set of softs that may provide a bit of an advantage. But Aaron Dominguez back up into second. Jeremy Gallinier trying to get himself onto the podium, but he'll have to slot behind Tony Hitala once more.
Yeah, interesting to see that with Tony Hitala in front of this group, the gap has only gotten bigger and bigger. So he's really trying to make sure that Diego is quite safe right there. I'm sure this is all strategy-wise from Tony's side. trying to hold them up a little bit. Now Aaron Mingus back out in front. The gap now up to 2.1 seconds. Jeremy Gallagher nearly had to go for the podium. He probably has already heard that his teammate has tumbled down the order. Carlos Galindo is also in the pit lane, switched to a set of medium tires. He does not have to pit anymore. But it's quite early. 16 laps those medium tires have got to last, as Jeremy Gallagher was temporarily under pressure from Giovanni Kennis out of the hairpin. He got a pretty poor exit, but some more throttle on it helped him to stay ahead in 4th place for now. The TTN drivers also have a very good position in 5th and 6th to work together to both keep Mark behind and try to take the rest out of the way in their battle for 2nd place, which is currently looking the best position they can gain, unless of course a safety car comes out and potentially changes up everything. Look at this as they approach the chicane. They had a little bit of a look at each other and then onto the main straight. Once again, which driver is going to be close enough to make the move? Aaron Mingus leads the pack here from 2nd place downwards to 7th. Tony Hitala is probably going for the move into 2nd place once again. Aaron Mingus stays on his own line. There comes Jeremy Gallagher as well. Can he find again to the podium places? Aaron Mingus is going to try go round the outside in turn number 2, but he has to yield. And there he is then, Jeremy Gallagher up into 3rd position and now giving chase to the Mercedes car ahead of him. Let's see where he can take it next.
Indeed, Jeremy Gallagher is doing such a good job in this race. He really has been looking super strong. We've seen a few drivers into the pit lane now. We've seen Jordan and Carlos Galindo both onto a set of medium compound tyres here in this race. As Tristan overtakes both of them as they come out in 19th and 20th respectively, but Jeremy Gallagher has got a little bit of fighting to do behind as well, as Aaron Dominguez got very close on the exit of the hairpin there, but I think we've got a lot of kind of things still to go in this race between all of these drivers. They've got a lot kind of still to fight for, and it's all to play for at this stage. There could be a safety car next lap, and it changes the entire dynamic of this race. So really interesting to see what is going to happen between now and that checkered flag. Gio Zorzo 2.5 seconds out in front. It looks like he's checked out. He's got this race under control, Max Verstappen style. But all it would take would be an undercut from someone like Jeremy Gallagher or Aaron Dominguez to put that 2.5 second gap really under threat. And I would fully expect to see that happen from someone in this pack here as Jeremy Gallagher back up into 2nd. It's a real difficult one, but they've got to do something.
Yeah, especially if they want to get the other FER car out of the way. They've got to pit preferably earlier than Tony does. But you do not know what strategy the FBR team has at the moment. They've got it fully under control, no matter where Tony is in that group. As long as he is in the 1st group, in 3rd or 4th, or preferably 2nd place, they've got a perfect control on the race. Jeremy Gallagher now leading them in 2nd place as he gets a tiny bit of a poor exit out of the hairpin, and Tony Hitala nearly coming alongside him, coming out of turn number 11. Sorry, right there. We are now on lap 13. Those pit stops are coming ever closer. 3 drivers have decided to go for a big undercut. Those are Pascal Renielli, Jordan DHL, and Carlos Galindo, I believe, has changed his front wing as well because he's a bit further behind than the rest. After his pit stop, there comes Tony Hitala, nearly going side by side into 130R. Another move right there would have been absolutely brilliant, but that would have been a bit too risky and probably not necessary because the DRS zone is coming up right here out of the chicane, and turn number 18, the Casio Triangle, we'd all like to call it. And the first one from the lead group to yield and go for a set of fresh tires is actually Lighty. Same goes for Gustav Ruderdal and Tinter Nemo from the 2nd group. They'll switch to their medium tires as well. But it's Lighty yielding first and trying to go for the undercut on the group, trying to catch the race leader in the process. But we're going to have to wait a lap or maybe 2 laps to figure out what his exact position is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what I was saying. They needed to try and do something in this race. Lighty will come out into a decent chunk of clean air as well. He's got about 8 seconds of clean air in front of him. So it gives him, you know, if the leaders are a couple of laps off pitting, it gives him a window to work with and a bit of window to find that pace and get some good laps in. And hopefully close that lead. But now that gap hovering at 3 seconds, you've got to say that Tony Hitala is definitely doing something to try and make this gap that little bit larger, maybe to warn off that undercut strategy as well, right? You know, it'll give the possibly Diego Zorzo a lap or two to respond in the event someone does go for the undercut, such as Lighty. By holding them up, you're going to help prevent that. Tony Hitler just really hasn't seemed to have been in a pace comparable to his teammate. Is this a bit of a strategic ploy? It possibly could be. Or is it just a case that he is really struggling? Well, we're going to be finding out some of those answers in a couple of moments' time. Aaron Dominguez, once again, going to make that move as we get Giovanno, Daniel, Oliver not into the pit lane. Aaron Dominguez, though, back up into that second place. Again, going to want to try and close that gap, but it's so difficult when you've got FVR, who have got a bit of a stronghold on this race at the moment.
Yeah, I'm watching Giovanno and Lighty at the moment to see what the difference is going to be. Lighty breezing past his teammate right there. The gap is 1.7-ish seconds with 1 lap difference, 1.8 seconds in fact. That is good news for the TTM team as they try to make that undercut work properly. They've already caught this much time on the race leader, especially Lighty was not being held up by the second FVR car in that main group, which is now being led by Aaron Dominguez, as you just said a few moments ago. There's only 4 cars now remaining in this group. They are all still driving and fighting together. Meanwhile, a bit of a lonely position further back. Modesto Minas driving a very lonely P6 at the moment. Also has yet to pit as he goes a little bit too wide, potentially picking up a warning right there. He's going to try and salvage as much as he can for his team as Carlos Gallino once again in trouble. Like last week, where he had internet issues, this week some front wing issues as he's still driving around in last place with a time penalty to his name as well. Absolute nightmare there for the other TES driver. Let's see which driver from the main group is coming in. It's actually Tony Hitler coming in alongside Mark Schluter. The rivals there going pitting at the same time. The first 2 pit boxes occupied straight away. Fresh medium tires. Tony Hitler probably called in by his team to try and cover the upcoming charge of the Ferrari drivers. They are going through the chicane right now. What's the gap difference going to be between the Ferraris, the Mercedes and the Red Bull, as several others have pitted as well? Tony Hitler is just exiting the pit lane. Can he split the Ferraris? No, he can't. In fact, both of them have driven away, but the gap, what's it going to be? It's just going to be just over a second of a gap between Giovanno and Tony. Shouldn't be much trouble then for Tony to catch up the Ferraris and join them in the fight. But it is important to note that now the TTM drivers might have control over Tony's pace as they are driving together, and they might try and apply the same strategy to him now that he is on the back seat.
Indeed, yeah, and it's about how much time are they going to be losing as well, right? Diego Zorzo is going to be losing a lot of time at the moment with the strategy he's running, but is that because there's a possible change to the soft compound tyres on the horizon for those towards the front who are still out at the moment? It could be a case that they try that to try and get some pace out of this race and do something a little bit different. Diego Zorzo doesn't need to take that sort of gamble, but someone like Modesto Mena or Bogdan Moldovan, that sort of gamble could be what makes a huge difference in terms of their points tally. Jeremy Gallinier, Aaron Dominguez, both into the pit lane, as well as your race leader, Diego Zorzo. But will he be your race leader come the end of that pit lane? As Lighty is coming around the final bend now, heading down the main straight. Is it going to be a change for the race lead for this one? Not quite, but they are certainly a lot closer now as Giovanno Kennis, with tyres that are warmed up, is just 5.5 tenths behind. But Bogdan Moldovan could play a huge part in this race as he's still out on his aging hard compound tyres.
I was about to say, Bogdan Moldovan could play a crucial part in Diego's charge, because now he's going to have an Aston Martin as a moving obstacle ahead of him. If Bogdan wasn't there, Diego potentially could have driven away. The gap was about 7 tenths, but there he is. He's got to get past Bogdan right now, otherwise those Ferraris are going to be right on the back of him. There he goes into the hairpin. Bogdan Moldovan has decided to defend from the Mercedes, but no chance as Diego Zorzo simply breezes past, and now the ball lies in TTM's court. as they have got to try to get past, but Bogdan Moldovan has decided to go on the offensive for some reason, trying to get back at the Mercedes. Absolute brilliant move there from Bogdan, because even if this is not his race, he's going to try and take the opportunity to retake the lead, even if he's still a pit stop away from the race leader right there. It's burning his battery hard. Look at that. He's going to try and come back into 130R. Then he's going to try and make the chicane. Diego probably not a very happy man right now. Bogdan fighting. It's almost like he's on TTM's side, and he's still gonna go around once again with DRS, with TTM right behind. What is he going to do with the Ferrari cars as he's getting closer and closer to Diego? He's gonna force around the outside, and he retakes the lead for some reason. He's defending like he's trying to go for the race win right there. He's though still gonna yield, and he's also fighting against the TTM car. So whatever Bogdan's idea is of this race, he's trying to hold up everybody in the top 4 right now. Now it's Lighty right behind, and he's furiously trying to get past through the S section where Bogdan is really slow on those old hard tires, and Lighty now potentially losing connection to his own teammate, in fact, as he is now going towards the hairpin right there. That's the moment he's gonna try and get past. Tony Hitala has also cut up to the Ferrari massively. He's gonna get forced around on the outside. Lighty is, and through there goes Tony Hitala on the inside. Can he take the both of them as he goes round the outside again? It's absolute chaos with Bogdan Moldovan in the mix. The race has just gotten 25 times more interesting, and Bogdan fighting for his life on those old hard tires. It looks like he's finally decided to yield, but man, he's played a big role right here into shaking up the entire order at the front.
Indeed, Bogdan Moldovan, he absolutely didn't want to yield. He was forced to yield by Tony Hitala, who showed him the door and showed him the edge of the racetrack. Jeremy Gallinier about to make his way up past Bogdan Moldovan as well, as he gets up into 6th place there. But Bogdan Moldovan absolutely trying to play his part in this race. Throw a little bit of spice into the mix as Aaron Dominguez gets himself ahead as well. And he, of course, lets his teammate through, which I think that was the play. His play was absolutely to try and help his teammate, Gustav Ryderdale, get into the mix of that one. And he's absolutely done that. That's absolutely happened.
Wow.
Gustav has now got himself just to within on the edge of that 1 second window of Aaron Dominguez on tyres that are a couple laps older, but definitely brings him into the mix a little bit more.
Brilliant there. Bogdan Moldovan has completely sacrificed his own race entirely to make sure Gustav catches up to the top 7. Unfortunately, Gustav is just out of that range, 1.4 seconds clear, which actually increases through the hairpin. Whoa, Lighty there. Thought for a moment I saw a yellow flag, but that's a time penalty for Tim Turnimo as Lighty gets overtaken by Tony Hitala. Givano, though, cannot keep up with the masterclass that is being held by Diego Zorzo, as he has increased the gap to be big enough to be no longer threatened from behind by Givano Kennis. Tony Hitala himself, though, as well, has got a more than 1 second gap to Givano, as it looks like to be a 2-horse battle. Whoa, I think a bit of a bump right there from Jeremy into Mark Schluter, who finds himself with another good opportunity to catch at least one FER car right here as they go into the main straight. Once again, lap 20 out of 27. There's no way that Bogdan is not going to pit yet. He's actually not going to pit. We see some more fighting then at the front of the field. Jeremy Gallinier trying to get past Mark Schluter. Mark Schluter really doesn't want that. He needs to be ahead. Whoa, they nearly they do take each other out. Another VRM driver involved in an incident, and Jeremy Gallinier is now dropping down fast, and where they were looking quite nice for a podium just a few corners ago. Once again, it's turning dark for the VRM team as he's now getting accompanied by Gustav Ryderdal. I can also say that in about 30 minutes time, which is probably past the race already, it's going to be raining. We're probably not going to be affected by that, but yeah, as I said, Jeremy Gallinier joining his teammate in the darkness. At least he's still in the top 10, but that's not at all what he wanted.
No, absolutely not. I really feel for Jeremy Gallinier there. It is the risk you take when you try and go side by side through the S section, but I think Mark Schluter kind of closed that a little bit on him there. I do feel for Jeremy Gallinier. I think it was a little bit on the unfair side in his battle there, but hey, what can you do? He'll still get hopefully a decent haul of points out of this one for VRM. You know, and there's always a chance that he's able to catch up towards this train and could play a factor towards the end of the race. He's got some clean air to work with, so he has got a little bit of chance between now and that all-important checkered flag. But Diego Zorzo, he really has been running off into the sunset. There hasn't been any shadow of a doubt that that man is very likely to be your race winner, and certainly Giovanna is putting a strong case in for second for TTM at the moment, but Tony Hietala is wanting to have a say in that podium as he looks to try and catch that, you know, that window and get himself onto that 1-2.
Meanwhile, Bogdan Moldovan is still driving around on those hard tires. I'm certain he's going to switch to the softs when his pit stop is happening to try and salvage any points for himself. He's definitely really helped out Gustav, who is now driving along with Jeremy, who in his turn is actually catching the top 6 once again. So that is ideal for Gustav Ruderdal right there to maybe potentially get close to those podium positions. Jeremy Gallandier, though, going a little bit too wide in his eagerness to catch the rest of the pack. He's definitely very angry right now, I'm certain, because that's kind of his driving style at the moment. He's not catching anymore as they are now on a straight and everybody ahead of him is towing themselves along. In fact, Mark Schluter is going to go on the offensive right there against Lighty through the chicane. That's not a very usual place to overtake. In fact, he actually compromises his own exit completely because there's Aaron Raminguez now overtaking him for P5. But Mark Schluter is not going to throw in the towel just yet. They're all gonna get very close indeed in turn 1. Mark Schluter trying to take 2, maybe 3 cars. More bumping across the group right here. Mark Schluter, where is he gonna go then? He just barely stays behind Tony Hietala. I probably didn't expect all the bumping from behind to happen already. They're there on lap 22 of 27. The gloves usually come off at the usual final 2 or 3 laps of the race, but already these guys are fighting like the title is in their hands already. It has allowed Giovanni Kennis to stay ahead for the time being, but he's been caught lap after lap by Tony Hietala, and now the fight for second place is definitely on. 4.2 seconds between first and second. Only a safety car can change anything about that, I'm certain, or a big mistake from Diego Zorzo, as Modesto Mino and Gustav Reiderdal suddenly have a battle of their own, because Gustav has lost another position right now, not ideal. Behind them, Bogdan Moldovan is now making Oliver Knott's life very difficult on his 21 lap old hard tires, which is a difficult one to pronounce actually, as he remains for now into P10 to salvage this race for himself. But at the front of the field though, the fighting is getting quite hard.
Indeed, yeah, Jeremy Gallandier, Modesto Mena, Gustav Reiderdal, all now in the mix here for this battle for a podium. And what a podium it could be if Jeremy Gallandier was to take it as well, when you think about how he was very unlucky as he get involved in that incident. But as we head onto that straight once more, there's yellow flag just behind. That's Oliver Knott there who's caused that. But Mark Schluter ahead of Giovanni Canis now onto that podium and nicely slotting into that third place, and will set his sights on Tony Hietala here. But anything can happen, and if our normal final couple of lap squabbling is to ensue, it could be a real mixed bag come the end of this one.
Yeah, all the fighting has helped out Gustav even more. His teammate has helped him out big time, and then the rest of the drivers decided to help Gustav out as well with their fighting in the front of the field. There comes Jeremy Gallandier on Lighty through the hairpin, trying to get P6 back from him. Trying to get a bit of revenge against the man potentially going to get a penalty from that incident. Mark Schluter, he's only 4 positions ahead of him, and that's only a couple of seconds right now, as the fighting has allowed him as well to catch up. Modesto Mina for TES, meanwhile, is seeing some light at the end of the dark tunnel they've been driving in throughout the last 2 races. It's looking better and better for him. The podium is literally only a few seconds away, and the big fighting that is happening right now might just allow him to get past. And there he goes against Jeremy Gallandier, and once again Jeremy Gallandier getting turned around, nearly spinning into the chicane right there. What is going on with the Frenchman right there? It's just not his place to be, it appears, because he is getting attacked every single time he tries to overtake or defend against somebody. I'm not sure who was at fault this time round. They were so close together, it was difficult to see. But yeah, really not his day once again. Trying to get to the podium. He's still with the group this time round though, but yeah, not looking very bright there for the Frenchman.
No, it's been a really difficult one for Jeremy Garnier, and I really feel for him. I think, you know, he's been really unlucky in this race. He's had a really strong pace and been really well placed to capitalise on this race, but just seemingly hasn't got the luck when he needed it as Carlos Galindo retires in the pit lane.
Yep.
I was wondering at what point we would see that. He's had a really difficult race here, but Min Jake and Alex Lamasse there battling side by side over 13th and 14th. There is a few points for those positions, but the likes of Aaron Dominguez, Giovanni Canis, Lighty, they'll all be fighting for the edge of this podium. Jeremy Garnier, he falls now to 10th. He's really
yeah, his front
off.
wing is seriously damaged, actually.
He's really fallen off, and I wonder what's caused that. I don't think that was there in that incident that was originally happening.
No.
As Lighty, Modesto Mena, and Giovanni Canis. I think Giovanni Canis has had a bit of his own incident as well here, as he's gone down now to 7th place on the road. He's now fighting Modesto Mena here. Jeremy Garnier into the pit lane. Wouldn't be surprised if we see him retire here, as there isn't much fighting for there in the position he's at the moment, as Bogdan Moldavon has also come in as well. But Mark Schluter in second, Tony Hietala in third, followed by Aaron Dominguez, Lighty, Modesto Mena, and Giovanni Canis. Then Gustav Reidedal, who got brought into the mix through his teammate. With a few older tyres, has certainly still got a chance in this race.
Oh, Modesto Mena with a big dive bomb there on Lighty, somehow wrestling his way past the Ferrari. TTM probably not going to be too happy about that bomb, but Modesto Mena really doesn't care anymore. He's going to grab more and more points, finds himself in P5 already. He's having an absolutely brilliant race on his own tonight. Be a little bit invisible at the start, but there he is for the Williams team right there, doing a respectable job to get as many points for his team as possible. In the meanwhile, ahead of him, Aaron Dominguez is getting closer and closer to Tony Hietala, who's probably not too happy to find his main rival, Mark Schluter, now ahead of him. Although with so few laps remaining, it's probably better to be behind than ahead, especially on the last time they come around on the main straight. You want to have that DRS to get going, as that's Jeremy getting an incident in the hairpin. Once again, his day getting even worse and worse. And Dominguez and Tony Hietala fighting for position. They're wrestling each other past each other there in turn one. Absolute chaos. That nearly went terribly wrong. Tony Hietala, and they're now, though, getting back into second place. But man, Aaron Dominguez trying to squeeze himself in between the Red Bull and the Mercedes nearly turned out to be absolutely disastrous. And I couldn't help but notice that Tony, I believe, had a little bit of a lag issue as he teleported left and right for a few moments. So that might have caused confusion for the Spaniard in the Haas. Because he probably didn't know for sure where Tony Hietala actually was on track. But now, back in second place, Tony is. But the bad news is, he's now in front before the final lap, and that means he's going to have to defend like mad on the main straight with Mark Schluter behind.
Indeed, yeah, it's going to be really difficult to defend here. That's that sandwich moment as well. Absolutely crazy between Mark Schluter and Aaron Dominguez, as well as Tony Hietala. Really dangerous, but we are heading on to that final flying lap of action here, and this could be another duel down towards turn number one for Mark Schluter, who would like that second place, and he can absolutely take it. But will we see any fighting through 130? Gustav and Giovanni changing places there into the final couple of ends, but we approach the very final lap of action here tonight, and Mark Schluter is maybe having to do a little bit more looking behind. Can either of them make a move? No one making a move. Oh, it's a late move from Mark Schluter on Tony Hietala, and that actually makes him have a pretty compromised exit here. Mark Schluter could have to look behind at Aaron Dominguez here, but no one really changing places here, so nicely held through the opening part of the lap here, but Tony Hietala, I think, on for what would be a very nice second place here.
Yeah, I'm currently having the standing sheet open. And I can already see the first place of Diego being filled in on the scoreboard already. Ace is very certain that Diego is going to win. It's looking very likely. 7.7 seconds, that is the gap right now. And one more opportunity for Mark Schluter to overtake will be on the back straight with 130R coming up right now, although he's getting awfully close in the spoon as well. Therefore having to brake a little bit earlier than he would have liked, allowing Aaron Raminges to get quite close, but Aaron Raminges nearly loses it on the curbs as well. Nearly getting terribly wrong there for the Spaniard. Can he, though, try and get a podium, the second, third place for his team at this season? It's going to be awfully close, but there comes Mark Schluter. He's going to try and force around the outside, and there's Modesto Mina as well. And he has to force his way off the track. Nearly going terribly wrong for 4 drivers right there. Diego Zorzo's won the race. Mark Schluter barely comes home in second. Tony Hintelaf then finishes in third. Aaron Raminges in fourth and Lighty in fifth, with those 4 drivers having less than a tenth of a second in between them. One of the closest race finishes I've ever seen, with Modesto Mina just missing out. He tried to go for it, but it didn't quite work out. But Diego Zorzo, though, he's the man of the match. He's dominated, he's controlled, and he's won here in Japan, the Mystery Grand Prix of round 5.
I wonder what track he practiced before coming into this race weekend. Anyone want to hedge their bets on it being Japan? Because that is a man who absolutely dominated from start to finish. There was not a doubt that he would win the race.
Yep, a masterclass there by Diego Zorzo. That's 2 races in a row he wins for the team. And this time, though, it's a much better result for FVR overall, with Tony Hitala finishing in third. They will definitely reclaim the lead on the team standings after this race, and potentially some FIA inquiries on the horizon coming up as well. Especially Mark Schluter's name being called out several times. But of course, we're going to have to find out whether, first of all, the incident is going to be reported or not, and secondly, what the FIA and stewards think of it. But the results for now: Diego Zorzo, race winner for the second time in a row. That's the 3rd win for the team in this season, and they are still dominating big time. Mark Schluter then finishing second from P9, a strong result for the TF10 team right there, but not good enough to retain the lead. Tony Hitala then in P3, and Raminges missing out on the podium again, now finishing in 4th. Barely missing out, though. Lighty also barely missing out, but a strong result, I believe, for TTM with what's happened on track tonight as well, with Lighty in P5. Modesto Mina then from 15th to P6. Another strong contender for driver of the day, I'd have to say. Then Gustav Reiderdal, thanks to his teammate, finishing in P7 from 14th. Giovanni Kennis in P8. Tomasz Kokeny, a little bit invisible, but finishing a respectable P9. Then Daniel Gottschalk in P10 from 11th. Alex Lamas from 18th to 11th. Strong race for him as well. Oliver Knott, P12 after an incident with Bogdan Moldovan on his ancient hard tires. Min Jake, a good result there, I have to say, for EVE in P13. Then Pascal Ranieri for ABS, 14th place. Double points then for ABS there. Same goes for EVE with Jordan in P15. In fact, EVE is going to catch VRM in terms of points in the standings, as they finish both out of the points in 16th and 17th. What could have been, especially for Jeremy Gallagher, had he not been involved in those double incidents, triple incidents, in fact. Bogdan Moldovan on his soft tires in 18th, and then Tim Tornimo 19th, and Carlos Galeno, the only retirement this race, and no safety car.
Indeed, yeah, very... I was going to say clean racing. But then I remember those final couple of laps, and I'm not sure if we can fully class that as a clean race. But dramatic, I think, is definitely the way to describe that one. But we do have all 3 of our podium finishers in the waiting room. I just got to remember quite which order they are in.
Diego, first and foremost, Diego, of course.
Indeed, Diego was definitely first. I just got to remember who was in second and third. I don't want to get it the wrong way around.
Second, and Tony third.
Lovely. So, let's speak to third place, Tony Hitala.
There he is.
Indeed.
Tony, can you hear us?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, what can we say? There was quite an interesting race, probably from your point of view as well. Let's go to the start. Your team probably had everything under control. You led, well, in second place, I have to say, for quite a while. The gap, though, increased quite a lot. And I'm curious to ask you about the strategy from the team.
Well, I mean, we discussed before the race started that we could do some teamwork. I should slow down a bit for Sorso to make a gap, and that's literally my goal for the entire race. And then the pit stop happened. They called Sorso. TTM guys, they boxed early. And then, yeah, Sorso made a gap again, and then I just was my own race. And yeah, I mean, P2 could have been possible, but then at the end of the last back straight, just Mark had so much more straight line speed than me, and I just couldn't really do anything. It was a good battle, though, the entire race. I enjoyed it.
Well, that's actually good to hear. So yeah, then we were talking about it, Byron and me, about the strategy for the team. So we were right then about the you going a little bit slower through the corners to make sure Diego went away from you. So yeah, you said P2 could have been possible, but Mark Schluter came, well, to be fair, did he come out of nowhere for you because he started from 9th and then he was suddenly there, or was it expected for you?
I mean, we already knew that TF10 was going to do really good in the race. I was really expecting it for one of them to be at the front in the top 5. So it was unexpected because he had so much more straight line speed than me. So at one point, middle of the straight, I thought I had it, but then he just came flying past me.
Right, Byron, anything from you?
Yeah, so I actually wonder, like, what was the rationale behind the choice for you to kind of hold up the drivers behind? Was it, like, where was the strategic benefit in terms of that? Because obviously, one thing we thought of was obviously, you know, you could have slipped further down the order if the pace hadn't have necessarily been there. So kind of how did you balance kind of how much you held everybody up versus your own race?
Well, I mean, I already had before the race. I had the confidence to actually keep myself in the top 5, no matter what, if I didn't get taken out. And I already knew before the race as well that Sorso had better pace than me because he had previous races here recently. So, I mean, I was just slowing down, like in sector 1, where people couldn't really overtake me. And before the main straight, I just tried to make a gap for like one car or no cars to overtake me, and then just do it again to the next lap. That was literally my thoughts the entire race.
Well, very interesting. Thank you very much for your insights, Tony. We'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Lovely. So let's now hear from Mark Schluter, your second place driver today. Mark, hello. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Lovely. Well, what a race you had today, all the way from 9th on the grid up to 2nd place. That's not a bad result. Obviously, a little bit of controversy there on the final lap. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, wanted to go for the overtake. Got pushed a bit wide. I think we got hit from behind as well, me and Tony. But yeah, I think it was hard, but just about on the fair side. And luckily, I got just about in front to get P2.
Yeah, I was going to say it was very close towards the line. Was all of the racing nice and clean and fair, or do you think there was a few moments where drivers went a little beyond the realms of reality?
I think it was mostly fair, but yeah, something I didn't quite like. But yeah, I mean, this happens in these league races or team event races. So yeah, that's just happening. Just glad that these incidents we had just were so minor that nobody crashed out.
Yeah, well, I think someone who may not agree with that would be Jeremy Gallinier. He had a bit of a difficult one. I think he at one point did have a bit of an incident with you, and he just slept further and further afield. But Frost, any questions from you?
Yeah, TF10, of course, had the lead at the start of this race. Then, of course, you qualified 9th and 10th. So, from that perspective, was this the maximum result, or did you hope for better, especially with Daniel in mind?
I mean, of course, you always hope for better, but with no practice and I'm not the best guy in qualifying. And it's probably Daniel's worst track. So I think we maximized what we could today, and also Daniel had some wing damage from earlier. So yeah, he got what he could do.
Yeah. Now next week, of course, you can practice again for the next round. Austria. How do you feel about that track?
We'll have to see. I mean, Austria is normally a good track for me. Maybe not in qualifying, but in the race, I can get some good positions again. And we'll have to see. I have already a race on Monday there, so a bit of practice for the next round. So yeah, should be good.
Okay. Well, cheers for joining us and enjoy second place.
Thank you.
All right, and now let's hear from Diego Zorzo, your race winner this evening. Diego, can you hear us?
I can.
Lovely. Well, there was no doubt that you were the man on fire today, comfortably out in front. I did ask the question of what tracks you practiced ahead of this. I was told Monaco and Canada. Is that correct?
I mean, I didn't practice specifically one track. I just did a 5 lappers with my teammate and a couple of guys, and in every single track or most of them. And I didn't actually do Japan, but I had practice from last week, so yeah, I knew it was one of my best tracks of them.
I was going to say, you definitely showed that it's one of your stronger tracks by the fact you were just on it from the absolute get-go. I think you struggled a little bit in the early parts of qualifying, had to kind of make up a little bit of pace in the earlier stages, but then as soon as you were on the mark, you really were on the absolute money tonight. How did it feel out on the circuit? Was it kind of quite plain sailing and quite easy, or was there a lot of management of tyres and kind of the entire race with kind of some people trying the undercut?
No, not management really. Only management I did was battery. Tires I had to push every single lap. Of course, it's tricky when you don't have practice. You can easily overheat. But yeah, having my teammate there just made it easier. Then we sort of bottled the strategy. Myself, it was my goal. I boxed too late, and with the undercut they got DRS, but then I managed to break it. So in the end, it paid off.
I was going to say, yeah, very interesting, the strategy direction that you took to run it longer. But hey, it worked out for you in the end. Frost, questions from you.
Yeah, I've got to ask. At some point, you had an Aston Martin in front of you with very old hard tires who decided to fight. What was going through your mind by that point?
Yeah, I was a bit scared. I thought, yeah, you always have that doubt in mind if he's gonna close the door or break your front wing. He was pretty clean, pretty respectable, so fair enough to him. And yeah, I actually ran out of ERS, and he overtook me in the straight the lap after. So I thought, oh no, this is another lap after behind him. But I managed to overtake him, so yeah, decent work.
Yeah, and then he decided to held up some cars behind you as well, which caused the gap to increase back to over 1 second, and then you just sailed to the finish. On a scale of 1 to 10, how easy was this race for you?
Well, of course, without my teammate, it would have been possible. So congrats to Tony, and this victory is also his. But when I had the gap, it was pretty easy because I had 1 or 2 lap fresher tires, and that was really easy. But before that, it was, not a very easy race, let's say.
I mean, it's never straightforward, so well done to you. 8 seconds at the line, so yeah, congratulations on this big victory for you and the team as well, of course, because you're back in the lead in the standings, and let's see what the team can bring to the table next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Cheers.
Indeed. Yeah, that was really interesting to hear from Tony there. And also, obviously, his teammate. I think they worked together so well on that race. They really made everything they needed to make out of that race. Take that championship lead back from TF10. You couldn't have asked for anything more, I think, from FER tonight. Maybe the 1-2 can be a bit disappointed about that, but I think they really maximised the race in terms of, guaranteeing that win. Whatever comes other than that, that's just an added bonus, right? Like, they really got, as much as they could out of that, and I think they'll be very satisfied with that one.
Yeah, I mean, these kind of strategies you only see in these kind of series. I mean, normal league racing, of course, it's every driver for themselves pretty much. Even though there is a constructors championship, there's nothing to gain from that. The individual glory is what counts there. The team glory is what counts here. And I think FER has got that perfectly under control.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting when we think about how different a mystery Grand Prix is versus a typical Grand Prix, right? You look at a mystery.
Yeah, I quite like it, actually.
I love it. I think it brings such a different dynamic, right? Nobody
should have
knows.
A mystery season.
Maybe that one's pushing the boat out a little bit too much, but I think it's really good because we get such an interesting, different mix of drivers, right? Everybody has that same gamble. They can practice as many tracks as they want, but if they practice 23 out of 24, it could be that one track they have done 0 laps on, right? It is such a gamble. It's really interesting to hear, we'll do 5 lappers. That's our practice. That is it. That's all they're doing because they have no idea what they're stumbling into. So I think that was really interesting to hear from everyone there. But unfortunately for you and your idea of a mystery season, we do head back to normal racing action next time out for Austria.
I mean, normal racing action is just fine by me as well, especially in Austria, because there's always a lot of chaos there. It's just a short track. Lap times are very short indeed, and the drivers are going to be so close together because of the shortness of it. So, yeah, altogether, it's really an exciting race to look forward to, and I can't wait to see what happens there.
Indeed, yeah, and we've got a lot more racing action to follow between now and the end of the season. It is all steam ahead between now and the end of this season. We have Mexico following Austria next time out, then Singapore, China, one further mystery round, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi to round off our season. But I think that has got to be one of the most crazy races, even if that race winner was so incredibly predictable. But I think that's pretty much all there is to talk about for this one until we head to Spielberg, and what a beautiful circuit it is.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much all for joining us once again here for CSS round number 5. FER back on top, but TF10 still in the hunt, and some other teams getting closer and closer to those podium positions indeed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to tune in tomorrow for another Mystery Grand Prix. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same track. Probably not, because they probably...
No, it is not. Different track.
Of course not, because that means they could practice now. It's going to be another mystery track. You'll find out tomorrow, so make sure to tune in as well for the console tier here in CSS. But for now, from the both of us, thank you so much for joining once again, and we'll see you next week, same place, same time as usual. Until then, goodbye.
Welcome back to the competitive Speed series.
The absolute carnage on this final lap. 5 red lights here in Miami. Can they regain that place?
I cannot believe my eyes.
Who comes out on top? Down the inside into Casio Triangle. This could end in disaster.
So Zach Miles taking the lead. It was an all-or-nothing approach for the TF10 team.
And this could be crucial for NBR.
A race to remember with Jeremy Gallagher.
And they are officially the champions of the season.
It does not get closer than that.
What a race. What a